For decades, there's been a group of people that believe that we never landed on the moon. Some say that climate change is simply a hoax. And we all know that there is a group of people that, despite hundreds of years of clear-cut evidence, they maintain that the Earth is flat. But conspiracy theories are nothing new. In the age of TikTok and Twitter, though, theorists weave misinformation into our social media platforms, and that's where unfounded conspiracy theories become amplified.
In this special edition of theCUBE, we're going to be looking at why people believe conspiracies, who are behind some of the biggest trending online, and delve into how this misinformation goes from fringe to mainstream.
Conspiracy theories are often complicated, multifaceted and tangential, and one theory that has gone viral across the globe has all of those same characteristics. It appears that this conspiracy theory that is baseless, there's no supporting evidence for this, started back on Twitter in mid-June. Now, Ben Collins, he is a disinformation reporter with NBC News. He tweeted about this, spotting this particular tweet, and in a detailed thread, he has debunked this conspiracy theory. Now, this user, known to be a part of QAnon, I'm going to go back to who they are later, she tweeted this, saying, "My spidey senses are tingling," pointing specifically to cabinets that were on sale on the furniture platform Wayfair. She questioned as to why they were so expensive and also why these cabinets were named after female names. Now, this theory went from Twitter right away across to the platform Reddit. There's a conspiracy theory platform thread here on Reddit, and people there questioning and saying that this was in fact a front for human trafficking. The reason why these were so expensive, they jumped from expensive cabinets to a human trafficking ring, saying that the names here were corresponding to names of missing people in the United States. Again, there was never any supporting evidence for this, but the theory went global. We took a look at Google Trends, and within the top 5 countries we have the United States, Canada, but also people in Ireland, Turkey and the United Kingdom talking about this. This is a screenshot from a Trends map, which is a visual aid showing you some of the trends this week. And Wayfair, again, one of the top trends in Turkey. We also looked at CrowdTangle. That is a tool we use here in theCUBE to look at interactions, likes, comments and shares on platforms such as Facebook and Instagram. Interactions here on Facebook for Wayfair at 1 million, but on Instagram, 4.5 million interactions, showing how broad this conspiracy theory really has become. Now, we asked Wayfair about this, and this is a statement they gave us here in theCUBE, saying, of course, there is no truth to these claims. Addressing the first claim that was about the cabinets, Wayfair said that the reason why they are so expensive is because they are industrial grade, saying that they were accurately priced. But they did say that they were going to change the description of those cabinets and were going to re-upload it back to the site once those descriptions were changed. However, the conspiracy theory then changed from the cabinets to pillows such as this. Now, this pillow was online, and the price here was nearly $10,000. Now, we asked Wayfair why this pillar was costing so much, and they said that this was a price glitch. And it's not the first time we've seen a price glitch. For example, this is something that happened within Amazon. Back in 2019, they had cameras that were camera lenses costing $13,000. A glitch meant that that price dropped to $94. So we have seen price glitches in the past. But just taking one more tangent of this conspiracy theory, there was this video that went, or this picture that went viral with regards to the Wayfair conspiracy. People saying that this was Ghislaine Maxwell. Alongside Ghislaine Maxwell, they said, was the president of operations within Wayfair. First of all, we haven't seen any president of operations. That title, we haven't seen any evidence that that exists. But also, this person is not connected to Wayfair. This is in fact a businessman. This picture, an event back in the early 2000s. Looking at the event, we saw other people that were there, such as Keira Knightley, such as the now president of the United States and his wife, Donald Trump and Melania Trump. But this is very easily debunked. However, the conspiracy theory still on our social media platforms. Another question then we have is, who's pushing this conspiracy theory? And many people who've been sharing it are part of the group known as QAnon. Now, we've known them since 2016. They're a group that claim that there's a deep state within the United States, saying that there are people on the left-leaning side of politics who are part of this human trafficking sex ring. Now, this conspiracy theory, they're often very, very charged, very baseless. However, they seem to be gaining real momentum. And one conspiracy theory that started in 2016, it's coming back onto our social media feeds now. Matthew's going to tell you more.
A baseless theory suggested that the Democratic candidate for president Hillary Clinton was involved in a paedophile child trafficking ring run out of a pizza restaurant in Washington, D.C., this known as Pizzagate. It began as an obscure phenomenon on 4chan. That's an anonymous online messaging forum we've previously seen in the Cube for its associations with the alt-right. But this soon transcended into other online forums, the likes of Reddit, YouTube, before making its way into the news media. And Dr. Mark Tutors from the University of Amsterdam told me more about how Pizzagate went from fringe to mainstream.
You could read that initially as a certain kind of like a sick joke that was done for the amusement of the people in this message board, and that then managed to go viral shortly thereafter with the help of a number of established alt-right Twitter celebrities, and then it kind of climbed the up through the layers of the web from 4chan into Alex Jones's YouTube channel, and then eventually into the mainstream media.
Now, this theory also had real-world consequences when a man opened fire in a pizza restaurant in D.C., claiming he was searching for a human trafficking ring. In a statement by Washington, D.C. police, they said he was self-investigating Pizzagate, what they called a fictitious online conspiracy theory. There is no evidence for this, no investigation has been launched, and no victims have come forward. But despite this, Pizzagate remains a trending topic today, and the reason for this, as outlined in an article by the Daily Beast, is because of TikTok, the popular video sharing platform, where a number of users are sharing videos with hashtag Pizzagate or alternatives to try and gain trending topics. And it isn't just on TikTok, we've seen on Google Trends. Have a look at this graph to show you the difference, where Pizzagate became a trending topic when it broke into the news media in 2016, and once again where it has spiked in 2020 around the world. And it's the same thing on CrowdTangle. Analysing Facebook again, you can see spikes in both 2016 and 2020, to the extent to which around the world it had more than 440,000 interactions. So it's a baseless theory, but it is still getting a lot of people talking. And Shauna, this isn't just in the United States. We've also seen how it's become a trending topic in recent days in the likes of Italy, Turkey, and also Germany.
And Telegram, it's a messaging platform. One researcher has found over 100,000 people on one QAnon German Telegram chat alone. We're going to be speaking to him after the break, but we're also going to be speaking to a psychologist who's going to talk us through why people believe conspiracy theories. Stay tuned. Welcome back to this special edition of theCUBE. 2020 has been a year where conspiracy theories have reached new heights. But how do they make it onto our social media feeds, and how influential are they? Well, to discuss this, I'm joined by two experts. First of all, we have Marc-André Argentino, a PhD candidate and an associate fellow at the Global Network on Extremism and Technology. And we also have Dr. Daniel Jolly. He is a psychology professor, senior lecturer at Northumbria University, who also studies the psychological consequences of conspiracy theories. Well, first of all, thank you very much both for joining us on this topic. And Daniel, I'm going to start with you, and a question that you've probably heard of many times before. Why do people believe in conspiracy theories, theories that are often always baseless?
So there's a whole host of different reasons. But one way to think about it is that conspiracy theories seem to bloom in times of crisis in society. It's when we're feeling uncertain, perilous. We're trying to understand the world. There's also other factors, such as potentially our need to feel unique or intergroup examples. So we like to believe in conspiracy theories about the other group. So the Democrats about Republicans, Republicans about Democrats. So in essence, so we find ourselves in a scenario where we feel uncertain. It could be a terrorist attack. It could be rapid political change. It could be a virus outbreak like COVID-19. We may be more drawn to conspiracy narratives.
Well, Marc-André, you have done very detailed research about the group QAnon. Now, we touched on that previously, just touched on it, but who exactly are they, and are they really influential within Europe?
Their influence in Europe is starting, but QAnon as a core is a group of conspiracy theorists centered around the belief that there's this malign deep state organization of satanic pedophiles that are looking to control the world, and Donald Trump is the only hope in saving us. And over the past 6 months, there's been a huge uptick in activity around this group in Europe. Some of the hotspots are Germany, Italy, France at the moment, but they are present across Europe in approximately 16, 17 different nations. And I guess they're starting to find resonance with the global crisis that we're going on right now, which brings in political, economic, and health insecurities. And individuals are trying to find answers to very difficult questions.
Well, Daniel, we have conspiracy theories. We've had them before. But one question I want to ask you here in the Cube, we debunk conspiracy theories. We try to debunk them and fact check them. But would you characterize them as misinformation or disinformation? What would you characterize conspiracy theories as?
So conspiracy theories are a different thing to misinformation. And because something could just be fake, not true. Whereas conspiracy theories offers the idea that there's a group of conspirators doing something for their own interests. Of course, misinformation is a flourishing ground for conspiracy narratives. But still, I think it's really important to debunk these conspiracies and ensure that our platforms online are full of the facts. But no, I see them as very different things, but they can work together.
So, Marc-Andre, you have again just taking QAnon as an example of that QAnon that seems to be mounting right now. In politics, in US politics, are they becoming more mainstream?
I believe they are. And just looking at the numbers over the past 6 months, we've seen on social media, at least on Facebook, it's a 651% increase on QAnon content and almost a 300% increase in groups and followers. And it's about 80% increase on Twitter. But also we've seen a huge increase in QAnon candidates in the looking for congressional positions that have at least given credence or used QAnon as a platform to campaign upon in the US. And this has given rise to a mainstreaming effect because it's no longer a group of powerless individuals that are using conspiracy theories, but rather it is a group of individuals that are in positions of power or vying for positions of power that are using this, and it's giving it more credence.
When you're talking about this as well, what are the real world consequences to conspiracy theories?
I think the two more important ones we'd have to consider right now would, especially in the pandemic, is one, the possible public health threat. QAnon has played a role, or other conspiracy theorists have played a role in spreading medical disinformation, promoting alternative remedies, or just denying the effectiveness of wearing, facial protections to prevent the spread of diseases. That has a direct consequence on public health around the world, but also, we could think of potential threats to violence, as there have been some cases of QAnon adherents who have performed either acts of violence, and in one case, one individual is allegedly charged with an act of terrorism. And now when it comes to our elections, it raises a lot of questions about protecting our democratic institutions as a group that usually, promotes and amplifies a lot of mis and disinformation.
Daniel, you have been working with regards to the psychological consequences of conspiracy theories. And I'm going to put the same question to you. What are the real world consequences to this?
Those examples are exactly right. And we have data to demonstrate that those people who believe in conspiracy theories are less likely to follow compliance advice, so from the government, to maybe follow self-isolation, because they don't trust that official information. But we also know that people who believe in conspiracy theories are more likely to be willing to act in a violent way against those who they perceive to be conspiring. I recently had some research published that looked into 5G conspiracy beliefs and the potential link with COVID-19. And we found that those people who believed in these conspiracies were more willing to actually go out and burn down pylons and be aggressive towards the engineers. And we found that this relationship was potentially caused by anger. Because people who believe in these conspiracies, it makes them angry. And this anger may motivate them to go out and call out the conspirators. So conspiracy theories have real-world consequences.
And Daniel, you've been studying again the psychological effect of this. Why is it so difficult to debunk these conspiracy theories and talk about conspiracy theories to those who believe them? So
conspiracy theories are important variable in people's understanding of the world. whereby they may engage in confirmation bias, where their beliefs govern what they think and what they see. So information that goes against their beliefs, they're motivated to discredit it. It doesn't necessarily go along with what they believe. Of course, inoculation, giving people facts, is important, because ensuring that people have the facts about conspiracy theory content can reduce belief in conspiracy theories in the general population. Those who are die-hard and strong conspiracy theorists, it's much more challenging. Could it be down to making sure that people feel empowered in society so they don't actually need to rely on conspiracy narratives? Could that be one way to combat them? It's a challenging game, but I think it's really important to look into ways to combat, because as we said, their consequences are real world.
Marc-Andre, I'm going to put this to you. Now, you've been looking at QAnon and more broadly now at conspiracy theories too. Do you think that they live in bubbles in the digital sphere, or are they cross-platform?
They're definitely cross-platform. However, in a way, they do live in a specific type of bubble. If you run experiments creating new accounts on, let's say, virtual machines, you'll see very rapidly, if you start going into the QAnon world or conspiracy theory world, your algorithms are going to be biased in a way where even if you try to get off of these type of networks, you're only going to receive a specific type of information. But we also see that, it's on Twitter, it's on Facebook, it's on Telegram, they're on Reddit, they're on messaging apps. There is a multi-platform, a multi-sectoral phenomenon, and it's very difficult if someone gets into this network to really get out of it, because everything is filtered through this very specific lens.
And so, Daniel, let's just imagine for a second that we live in a world where there's no social media platforms. Let's just forget about TikTok and Twitter for one moment. Do you believe in this world that we would still have conspiracy theories?
100%, because conspiracy theories have existed and have flourished without the internet. There are many, many, many examples of conspiracy theories from history. And indeed, conspiracy theories have been with us since the start of time. So the role of the internet, I think, is a really interesting one. I think it's made them more visible, and we're able to actually monitor them and see them in real time. And that's new with the internet. But I do think these motives are innate, whereby crisis in history would have also bred conspiracy narratives. But instead, the way we talk about them is different. It would have been through letters to journalists, through talking face to face. But I do still think we would have got to these beliefs, these kind of theories, without the internet, just maybe not as quickly.
Marc-Andre, I'm going to finish this off with you. Where is the responsibility for social media platforms, for theories that are started by groups like QAnon and threaded through social media? Do you think that social media companies should be taking more responsibility?
I think it's very difficult for platforms to deal with something like conspiracy theory and QAnon, especially in, let's say, countries where these companies exist, let's say in the United States. Free speech is something that's very protected. And QAnon is not necessarily a group like, let's say, ISIS, where violent extremism is the core element. It's not a terrorist organization. And trying to protect, individuals from that type of speech is hard. Now, in the context of COVID, the platforms have come out with regulations discussing COVID misinformation as a way of removing that type of toxic information. But I think the platforms need to reevaluate how this type of content is promoted and searched for and is found on some individuals' timelines without necessarily impacting freedom of expression. And that is a very delicate dance, and one that I'm happy I do not have to try to find a solution to.
Well, it was great speaking to both of you. Dr. Daniel Jolly, you're a senior lecturer in psychology at Northumbria University, and we have Marc-Andre Argentino. You are a PhD candidate and associate fellow at the Global Network on Extremism and Technology. Thank you very much, both. Well, do stay with us, because there's lots more to come. Particularly, we're going to be talking after the break about the power of algorithms amid this age of conspiracy theories.
Conspiracy theories about the moon landing were around long before the age of Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And the question is now how platforms tackle the spread. Here in theCUBE, we have examined a number of different social networks, searching for that term of that online group, QAnon. And it's fair to say there are different results. For example, if you go on Pinterest and search for QAnon, there are no results displayed because they say this violates their community guidelines. But contrast that to TikTok, a popular video sharing app. Searching for QAnon, and you see more than 74 million views on videos under that search term. And if you look for hashtag Wayfair conspiracy, what we've been talking about throughout the program, again, recommended hashtag 5G conspiracy. So you can see how people can move from one conspiracy to another, reverberating around echo chambers. TikTok actually saying to YouNews that the word conspiracy is what suggested this term. But it's not just TikTok, and platforms now have the question about moderating their content and the difference between freedom of speech and moderation. I spoke to Professor Hani Farid, who has studied the algorithmic effects of conspiracy theories, and asked him whether we should be putting more emphasis and more pressure on the business models of these platforms.
In the same way here in the US, the casinos in Las Vegas manipulate the environment to keep you there for as long as possible to separate you from your money. The social media companies are designing algorithms to promote material that engage you. And that engagement is often driven by hate and divisiveness and conspiracies. And they know this. Their own studies have shown this. But it is their business model. And therein lies, I think, the tension between asking them to do better, because you're literally asking them to make less money. And that's, of course, a hard ask.
Now, one study conducted by Professor Farid concerns the algorithms behind YouTube and what videos are being suggested and recommended to you as users. Now, YouTube said in a statement that they welcome studies and research on their algorithms, and in a further comment to Euronews, saying that in the last year alone, they have made over 30 different changes to reduce recommendations of borderline content and harmful misinformation. But it isn't just YouTube, and this is an age-old debate between freedom of speech and online content moderation. So should we be putting more pressure on these platforms, or should we be looking at ourselves as users?
Social media has to stop hiding behind the mantra of we are not the arbiters of truth. They have to stop hiding behind free speech, everything goes. They have to stop hiding behind we are not responsible. They may not want to be the arbiters of truth, but they are absolutely the arbiters of what is relevant, what you see on a daily basis. So there has to be an understanding and a commitment that your product is unsafe for individuals, societies, and democracies, and let's stop pretending otherwise.
So in the wake of the Wayfair conspiracy and an age of climate denial, many questions remain. Should the focus be on platforms, content moderation, our own behavior as users, and where even do conspiracy theories fit in all of this?